Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. In today's lore video, we are going to continue with more events that happened in the Merethic era. Now, for those who haven't seen the video I covered on the Night of Tears, please be sure to go check it out. You can check it out by subscribing to the channel so you guys can check out all the videos. I have also created a playlist for Elder Scrolls lore so you guys can see all of the Elder Scrolls lore videos that I have covered. I will be covering events that took place throughout the event of Tamriel's history, as well as exploring other lands that are connected with the events that also happened in Tamriel, so you don't want to miss out. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can also check it out. Also, leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy, and comment on other events that you guys would like me to cover or other concepts. This event that we're going to cover today is an event that is a lot more prominent in Skyrim's history. Now, not to argue that the Night of Tears wasn't a big event, it is, but definitely not to the same degree, nor is it as well known as this event. And if you guys haven't guessed it from the title, let's begin with the events of the Dragon War. Now, much like the Night of Tears, the Dragon War was tied to the Atmorans coming to Skyrim all the way back in the Merethic era. When the Atmorans fled their home country because of a civil war, they wanted to establish peace and culture within Tamriel. They also brought with them their religion. Now, the religion of the Atmorans consisted of animal totems because they had believed that the gods had taken avatars as totems. One of these totems, which is the totem of the dragon, has been heavily revered by a group of Atmorans known as the Dragon Cult. And the Dragon Cult's belief is that the dragon totem is a lot more prevalent to the other totems. This is due to the belief that Akatosh himself has taken the avatar of a dragon. So naturally, they believe that since Akatosh is the strongest god in their eyes, the dragon totem should be revered higher than any of the other animal totems. Now, the thing is, dragons existed in Skyrim at the time, and since dragons being dragons embraced their role as god kings over men. After all, were they not fashioned in Akatosh's own image? Were they not superior in every way to the hordes of small soft creatures that worshipped them? For dragons, power equals truth. They had the power, so therefore it must be the truth. Dragons granted small amounts of power to the dragon priests in exchange for absolute obedience. In turn, the dragon priests ruled men as equals to the kings. Dragons, of course, could not be bothered with actually ruling. So this phrase comes from a book called The Dragon War, which, similar to the Night of Tears, is a book that covers the events very, very well. Now, in this text, we see that the dragon priest actually serves as the messengers between the dragons and the race of men. But the thing is, because the dragon priests worship the dragon so much, the dragons use this to their advantage by making bargains with the dragon priests. The kinds of bargains they would see them being made would be human sacrifices in exchange for great power. This power includes, but perhaps not limited to, the ability for the dragon priests to live much longer in almost a leash-like state, which is why in the events of Skyrim, the dragon priests do emerge from their tombs when we approach them, but they have taken the form of a leech instead of their old human being self. Now, when the dragon priests first moved to Tamriel from Atmora, they weren't actually the ruthless rulers that we've heard about be the events of the Dragon War. They were more peaceful. They just wanted to preach the dragons being the highest form of the totem in their religion. I don't know if it's because of the coercion from Alduin, which it very possibly well could be, or the power they gained through their bargains with the dragons, but eventually the dragon priests decided to rule with an iron fist and decided to commit brutal atrocities towards the race of men, alongside their dragon rulers. Now, the race of men did not take kindly to this, obviously, and they had waged war on the dragon priests. This was the event that triggered the Dragon War. Now, in the initial stages of the war, the race of men stood no chance for the combined might of the dragon priests and the dragons themselves, so many of the men were ruled as slaves. There is a belief that due to Kain's intervention, one of Alduin's closest lieutenants and his younger brother Parthenax, along with a group of other dragons, had turned on the mighty Dragon Lord and decided to teach the race of men the power of the Thu'um. This created the very first tongues. Now that the race of men have the knowledge that the dragons initially had the advantage of in the initial stages of the battle, they had created a shout using both the knowledge of the Thu'um they had learned from Parthenax and their hatred towards Alduin and their dragon and dragon priest rulers to create a shout called Dragonrend. This is the same Dragonrend shout that the last dragonborn learns in the events of Skyrim towards the end of the main quest storyline. The idea behind the shout was to enforce to the dragons that they were on the same level as men. One of the many advantages the dragons had had over the race of men apart from their ability to shout was also their ability to fly in the skies, whereas men had to fight on the ground. The practical effect of Dragon Rend was that the dragons were forced to land whenever the shout was forced on them. This put many dragons on equal fighting foot with the men so they could engage in battle. At the climax of this dragon war, there are 3 ancient heroes of Skyrim. We have Hakon One-Eye, Felder the Old, and Gormlaith Goldenhilt. They had lured Alduin to the throat of the world to engage in one last battle against the mighty dragon. With the use of an Elder Scroll, Felder the Old was able to banish Alduin into the Elder Scroll. Unfortunately, this didn't kill Alduin. Instead, it created a time wound, and the result of this time wound was Alduin headed into the 4th era of Skyrim. But despite Alduin being dragged towards the 4th era to do battle with the Dragonborn, the events of the Dragon War ended in a victory for the race of men, and without Alduin's leadership, the dragons had fallen into disarray. The surviving dragons scattered, choosing to live in remote places away from men. The dragon cult itself adapted and survived. They built the dragon mounds, entombing the remains of dragons that fell in the war. They believed that one day the dragons would rise again and reward the faithful. So despite the dragons falling in battle, the dragon priests and the dragon cult members believed that the dragons would return once again. This tells me that they didn't fully believe that Alduin had actually died, because he didn't have a physical body showing that he died, so as far as they know, he just disappeared. Since you can't confirm that Alduin has died, you can't exactly confirm that the dragon rule is over, which is why they had held to this belief. Despite that, Alduin was nowhere to be found after that battle at the throat of the world, and the dragons had dispersed. The thing with the dragons were, despite them being a very powerful race, they were very disorganized. It was only because of Alduin that the dragons were able to band together and even establish the dragon rule in Skyrim in the first place. If it wasn't for Alduin, the dragons would be pretty much on their own, surviving to the fittest, very similar to your average bear in Skyrim. The only difference is dragons are just bigger and they can fly. Because of Alduin, the dragons were able to band together and create a very terrifying rule that they would have survived until the 4th era had it not been for Parthenax betraying his older brother in order to teach the men the power of the Thu'um. After the events of the Dragon War, Parthenax had founded the Greybeards and wanted to continue that tradition of teaching men the power of Thu'um. So anytime a Dragonborn emerges onto the world, or if anyone wants to climb the 7,000 steps to make it to High Hrothgar, all they have to do is make that trek up until the mountain and receive training from the Greybeards, and if they had managed to survive long enough, they can also make it to Parthenax himself. Thus, the tradition continued until the 4th era, where the Dragon Crisis now begins. And that's where we're going to end the video, because the Dragon Crisis can be covered in an entirely separate video. If you guys want to see that, please be sure to leave a like on this video, and of course comment down below letting me know that you want to see that. That way I know you've made it this far. And of course, consider subscribing to the channel. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all in the next video.